Hello. Today, on a very rainy day, which you can probably hear, I'm going to be tying one of the all-time classic cutthroat flies. This is the Knudsen spider. And this pattern was created in the 1920s by Knudsen, who lived in the Everett, Washington area. And he originally developed his pattern for steelhead, tied on large hooks, like size 2 and size 4, and some of his original flies are actually on display at Western Washington University. During the 1930s, he would tie his spider commercially for 15 cents a pop to make ends meet in the Depression years. And subsequently, this fly has become popular for sea-run cutthroat in the smaller sizes, in both fresh and salt water. And it doesn't imitate anything in particular, but it really comes alive in the water, and the fact that it's been used over almost 100 years now tells you how effective it can be. You can tie this in a variety of colours, notably black, orange and pink, but it's the yellow version which remains the classic recipe, which was published here in this old guide to Northwest flies from 1970. And this is the pattern that everyone cites, right here. And the one that I'll be following, with just one small change in that I'll be adding a rib, which is an optional adaptation. I'm tying the spider on a size 8 3x long streamer hook by Firehole Sticks. This is the model 839, which is barbless and has a black nickel finish and a down eye. You could use any 3x streamer hook for this pattern, just to suit your own preference. Okay, my thread will be black ultra thread, 70 denier. I'm going to attach the thread right behind the eye and then create a short thread base. And I've mislaid my scissors. Okay, there we are. Cut off the waste piece. I'm going to tie in some medium oval silver tinsel. It's certainly not necessary to add a rib to this pattern, and I'm doing so more to just add a little bit of shine and flash to the body rather than for any, protective reason. I'm going to tie this in on my side and then move it to the underside of the shank, and I'll wrap it back to the start of the hook bend. Just keep tension on it, and that will keep the thread nice and tight. Oops. Okay, that can be clipped out of the way. For the tail, I'm going to select a nicely marked mallard flank feather. I'm just going to isolate 10-15 fibers, align the tips together, and then just pull them straight off of the stem. I'll measure them so I've got about 3/4 of a hook length projecting behind the bend. I'll lash those down. Some tight turns, keeping them on top of the hook. I'm just going to trim away some of the excess fibers from the front end. Continue to tie in the tail. That'll do. Now the body needs to be pretty full. I'm going to use a small chenille, but I'm going to wrap on a double layer. And I find that gives me the profile that I want. If you use the larger chenille, then it's a bit too kind of thin and fluffy for me. This double layer works just great. I'm going to prepare a length of it by stripping about 1/4 of an inch away, and then tie that down. And I'm going to start to wrap it about 2 eye lengths back from the end of the hook. And I'm going to make touching turns, keeping it tight, nice and tight all the way to the tie-in point of the tail. Now I'll reverse direction and wind it forward again. Just make sure I haven't moved the tail out. I'll trap that with some thread wraps, front and back. And then cut away the excess. I'm going to take the tinsel now and wrap that in the opposite direction. And I'll probably get about 5 turns of that. Just try and keep the angle the same the whole way down. That's about it. And you got to make sure that you don't let go of the tinsel until you've made 4 or 5 tight wraps with your thread, or it has a tendency to come unwound. Snip that spare bit away. Just check. That's looking good. Now the original recipe includes an under hackle, a grizzly saddle, and I prepared one for tying it in by the butt. Now, honestly, you could omit this step. I think its only purpose really is to keep the mallard fibers from folding back too closely onto the body. And some recipes I've seen just don't have this at all. I'm doing it because it's in the original. I'm going to make 4 turns with this. And it's not too long, it's just a short hackle. Just trap that. I've got some fibers that are going to need persuading to sit back. So I'll just fold them back with my fingertips and wrap over them. Get them to fold back. There's one down there. And then I'll cut away the tip. Now there are still some stray fibers there, but I'll deal with them in a bit. Now here's the mallard feather that I've picked out for my hackle. I've pulled off all the fluff from the bottom and brushed back the fibers to expose a tip for tying in, and I've trimmed that tip really short. And as I'm tying that down, you'll see that the hackle is long enough to extend quite a way beyond the bend of the hook, almost the end of the tail in fact. I'm going to hold it straight and then fold all of these fibers back towards the tail. Wet your fingers makes it easier. I'm going to wrap it just 3 times. This feather actually has quite a thick stem, which is making it a little bit difficult. That's my 3 turns. So it's very thick. So I'm going to gather all of these together. And then once I've tied it in, I'm just going to tie back down on those fibers to force them back. A little more. Okay, that's got it. So I'll cut that stem away. I'm going to tidy up the head a little bit. want to make this head too big. Let's get some of those little bits away. Okay, now I'll put in a whip finish. If I can find my tool, there we go. Cut my thread. I'm going to apply a coat of Sally Hansen's Hard as Nails to finish the head of the fly. I'll remove that little guy. Okay, just a dab more. Whoops, got that on. You can go. And there's the Knudsen spider for you. Thanks so much for watching this video. Best of luck and take care.